All right, let's talk about what might just be the most gloriously unhinged family vehicle ever built. We're looking at the most powerful three-row SUV in history, a 710 horsepower, 1 year only, instant legend, the 2021 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat.
You know, this vehicle is basically what happens when the engineers at Dodge win a major argument with the legal department. It's like someone said, hey, what if we put a Hellcat engine in the family SUV? And legal just sighed and said, fine. You have exactly one model year before the EPA shuts this whole thing down. And that's literally what happened.
So, how does a car become a legend the second it's announced? Well, for the Durango Hellcat, it starts with a simple, brutal fact. Almost nobody could get their hands on one. We're not just talking about a fast SUV here. This thing is a bona fide collector's item right out of the gate.
To put its rarity into perspective, you gotta understand this number. Dodge only made about 3,000 of these for the entire planet. Now think about this. That means the Durango Hellcat is even rarer than the infamous 2018 Dodge Demon, a car that was built from the ground up to be a collector's piece.
The demand was just completely off the charts. The entire production run was spoken for in just 3 months. This, of course, led to insane dealer markups. We're talking $20, $50, I've even heard of $70,000 over the sticker price. This frenzy basically cemented its collector status before the first owner even got the keys. Okay, so it's rare, we get it. But that's only half the story, right? Now we have to get to the real meat of it. The reason this thing even exists. We're talking about completely absurd performance numbers that, frankly, just shouldn't be possible in a vehicle this big. And here it is, the source of all the wonderful madness. It's the supercharged 6.2-liter HEMI V8. And sitting right on top is a massive 2.38-liter supercharger, which is basically a giant air pump cramming almost 12 pounds of boost into the engine. The end result? 710 horsepower and 645 pound-feet of torque in a truck that can haul your kids to school.
So what does all that power actually feel like? Well, you've got all-wheel drive grabbing the pavement and a super-fast 8-speed automatic snapping through gears. And its nearly 6,000-pound SUV just launches from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. Let me say that again. That's faster than a 90s Ferrari Testarossa. Just let that sink in.
And it gets even more ridiculous when you take it to a drag strip. This thing runs an NHRA-certified quarter mile in 11.5 seconds. For a vehicle with 3 rows of seats and a bunch of cup holders, that number is just, well, it's hilarious. There's no other word for it.
You know, this might be the only vehicle in the history of the world that can nail this unholy trinity of tasks. It can haul the entire soccer team to practice, it can absolutely embarrass a Porsche 911 at a stoplight, and with an 8,700-pound tow capacity, it can tow your boat to the lake. And you could probably do all three at the same time if you really wanted to.
Okay, deep breaths. The dream is amazing, right? But now it's time for a reality check. We have to talk about the financial nightmare. Let's get into the ledger of truly shocking ownership costs that come part and parcel with this kind of insane performance.
The number one thing, the headline issue that every single potential owner has to be aware of is the supercharger. It's the heart of the beast, it's where all the power comes from, but man, it is also the engine's biggest weak point. We're talking multiple, and I mean multiple, very expensive ways for it to fail.
And these bills, they stack up fast. First, you've got the snout bearings on the supercharger. All that heat and stress means they're gonna wear out, and that's a repair that can run you up to $3 grand. Then, the pulley and tensioner will eventually need to be replaced. That's another $800. And as if that's not enough, the water pump for the intercooler is a known weak spot, and that'll add another $1,200 to your potential repair bill.
All right, next up, the transmission. Now, you might hear that the fluid in this amazing ZF 8-speed is lifetime fluid. Let me be absolutely crystal clear. That is a dangerous, expensive myth. There's no such thing as lifetime fluid in a vehicle with this much power.
If you skip the mandatory fluid service every 60 to 80,000 miles, you are basically begging for a catastrophic failure, especially if you plan on using that launch control button. That service, that preventative maintenance, costs between $600 and $1,000. And trust me, it is absolutely non-negotiable if you want that transmission to live a long, happy life.
And now for what I like to call the consumables tax. This is the truly eye-watering cost of the parts that are literally made to wear out. We're talking about the gigantic brakes and the super sticky tires you need to keep 710 horsepower from sending you into a ditch.
And this is where it really starts to hurt. A full brake job on this thing, with those massive Brembos, that can cost you up to $7,500. A new set of those sticky Pirelli tires, that's almost $3,000. And God forbid you curb one of those beautiful 20-inch wheels, that could be up to $1,800 to replace just one.
And just when you think you've heard it all, just when you think your wallet can't take any more abuse, believe it or not, it gets worse. There's a whole other list of common, maybe smaller, but still pretty significant problems that owners run into all the time.
Yeah, the active exhaust valves, they love to seize up. The massive electrical drain from everything can kill the 12-volt battery way too early. A lot of dealers, frankly, just don't know how to work on these things properly. And then there's the fuel. A laughable 12 miles per gallon in the city, and it demands premium 91 octane. The fuel economy is probably the only spec on this entire vehicle that isn't best in class.
So, we've seen the legend, this unbelievable one-year wonder, and we've seen the absolutely terrifying ownership costs. So that brings us to the final act. Where does this monster actually fit in the market, and what's the final verdict? Is it a buy or a buy?
When you actually stack it up against the competition, you realize just how unique it is. The Jeep Trackhawk has similar power, sure, but it only has 2 rows and it's not nearly as rare. The BMW X5M and the Mercedes GLS are definitely more luxurious, but they're less powerful and they just don't have that raw, brutal Hellcat character. Seriously, nothing else combines this much power, 3 rows of seats, and this level of insane rarity. Which brings us right back to the ultimate question. After you weigh the incredible, intoxicating performance and true collector status against the absolutely crippling running costs, should you actually buy one? If you are even thinking about it, you have to follow these rules. This is non-negotiable. 1. Get a pre-purchase inspection from a certified Hellcat specialist, not just any old mechanic. 2. You must verify the health of the supercharger and see the service history for the transmission. If there are no records, you walk away. No exceptions. And 3, stay away from heavily driven examples. You are not buying a daily driver, you are buying a low-mileage collector car.
So, what's our final verdict? It's a very careful maybe. The collector value is real, no doubt about it. The best, cleanest examples are already going up in price. But that value is tied directly to its condition and its history. This is the definition of a high-risk, high-reward purchase, and it's really only for the most dedicated and frankly well-funded enthusiasts. It's a guaranteed future classic that could absolutely bankrupt you along the way. The only question is that a risk you're willing to take?